This is Troy Anthony Davis, and I've been sitting on Georgia death row for 16 years for a crime I did not commit. It's been a struggle for me and my family, as well as the victim's family, who I sympathize with barely, because they have been cheated out of justice just as I have. They deserve justice more than anyone deserves justice. Because of Amnesty's assistance as well as Arnold and Porter, I'm still sitting here alive today being able to have a conversation. And I want to thank all Amnesty supporters, all the volunteer workers. I want to thank everyone all over the world, who has been praying for me, supporting me, writing letters and signing petitions and things like that. I want to encourage people to continue to sign the Amnesty petitions and continue to write letters and look into my situation, because this situation could have happened to anyone, but it needs to start with me. It needs to continue to let their voice be heard, because if their voice had not been heard thus far, the parole board probably would have went ahead and let me be executed. My faith in God all these years has kept me strong, because in any other situation, had I not had God in my life and a strong family support base, I would have been given up. There's a couple of guys back here that dropping their appeals and saying, they'd rather go ahead and be executed than spend the rest of their life in prison. And with me, because I have faith that God will eventually intervene and set things right, it kept me strong. It gave me hope. You should never be able to convict a man or even indict a person, man or woman, without any physical evidence, no whatsoever. I would never take another human being's life. And this killer's still out there. My family's in mourning, the victim's family's in mourning, and the truth is still locked in because I didn't get justice. But in DNA cases, that's physical evidence that you can test. I have no physical evidence to test to prove my innocence. But when these witnesses volunteered to come forward, because their conscience was bothering them about the lies that they told on me, when they came forward and signed these affidavits, then that was evidence for me to test. When they took me to that death cell for death watch 24 hours before execution, it really affected me and everybody on death row, because you had grown men crying because they've heard about my situation. They know I'm innocent. They was like, they said, if I couldn't get no justice, nobody could get justice. This is Troy Anthony Davis, and I've been sitting on Georgia death row for 16 years on a crime I did not commit. It's a struggle for me and my family, as well as the victim's family, who I sympathize with barely, because they have been cheated out of justice as I have. Never be able to convict a man or even indict a person, man or woman, without any physical evidence, no whatsoever.
The parole board in Georgia has not granted clemency to Troy Davis, which I honestly cannot believe. What country are we living in? Of course, if you've been following the Troy Davis story, he was convicted of killing a police officer back in 1991. Or he was tried in 1991, I should say. And even though people who were witnesses testifying against him, they've come out and said, actually, we take it back, we're not 100% sure. Even though 3 members of the jury who found him guilty, even though they have come forward and said, no, we would like you guys to grant clemency because we're not sure and we don't think that this guy should be killed. Even though they've come forward and said that, it doesn't matter. The parole board in Georgia has denied him clemency, and he is scheduled to be executed tomorrow. Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
Now, you might dismiss all that. I don't know why you would. And Amnesty International called it unconscionable. You might dismiss that. Okay, fine. How about Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States? Oh, it's Jimmy Carter. He doesn't count. He actually cares about everybody. What a terrible mistake that is. How about if you're religious? Pope Benedict. Does he not count? Oh, no, he's just a pope. For other things, like when you're trying to deny people birth control, he counts a lot, right? But when it comes to death penalty, he doesn't count at all. Okay, you dismiss him. How about former conservatives, or current conservatives, like former Congressman Representative Bob Barr? How about an ex-Justice Department official Larry Thompson? How about the former FBI Director William Sessions, who have all said, do not execute this guy. There are grave concerns about this case, right? Now, here's the thing. Nobody's saying, or at least I'm not saying, let the guy go, right? Now, if you want to do a process by which you decide whether he's actually innocent, great, fantastic, right? But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, at this point, just don't kill him no more. Okay, you know what? What's the worst case scenario? He remains in jail for the rest of his life? Like, because some people obviously think he's guilty, right?
Yeah, like the family of the victim, okay? The police officer that was killed, the family's been interviewed by the press, and of course they're saying, no, his execution has been rescheduled 4 different times. Enough is enough. We want to start our lives over again, get rid of this guy, execute. However, there's new DNA evidence suggesting that he is not the man who shot the police officer. There is actual proof that says that this might not be the right guy.
Now, think about this, right? Okay, so you execute the wrong guy. Apparently, you might not care about that, if that's the case. Don't you want to be 100% sure? All right, but how about the fact that you won't get justice for the guy who actually killed your dad? How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there are several witnesses saying, no, we saw the guy who actually killed him. It's not Troy Davis, right? You tell me you're 100% certain the pardons board here is 100% certain, beyond any reasonable doubt, that this guy was definitely, despite this mountain of evidence, that should at the very least make you reconsider enough to say, hey, maybe we should just let him stay in prison for life for the moment being, you know, so we don't execute him tomorrow and make a terrible mistake we cannot recover from. But no, they're tough guys. They're tough. They say, oh, well, you know, we understand the emotions of the death penalty. This isn't about emotions. This isn't about, hey, oh my God, I feel bad for the guy who shot the cop. Okay, the guy who actually did the killings is a terrible guy. And he was pistol whipping a homeless guy, and then he shot a cop and killed him, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't know it's this guy. If you were 100% certain you had the right guy, you know me, you know, look, the only reason I'm against the death penalty is because we're not certain, like this case, right? If we were certain, it'd be a different question, because I get emotional for the victims, okay? This isn't about emotion, it's about, you knuckleheads, you might kill the wrong guy. I keep saying it because I can't believe that they're not moved by that.
They're not moved by it. It's almost as if they don't care. Even if they have evidence slapping them in the face saying, no, this is the wrong guy, they still don't care. They don't even want to retry this guy, which is amazing to me, okay? I don't know what their reasoning is behind that. And if anything, this case is just one example, and it's a perfect example of why the death penalty just does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. There's human error that comes into play. There's bias that comes into play. There's an innocent man who's about to, or possibly innocent man, who is set to lose his life tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
By now, the world is aware that Troy Davis, a 42-year-old black American from Georgia, was executed after the Supreme Court of the United States denied his 11th hour appeal. He was convicted in the 1989 murder of an off-duty Savannah, Georgia police officer, but he maintained his innocence until the very end. Davis exhausted all of his appeals in the court system, fighting to win a new trial. He presented affidavits from 7 of the 9 witnesses at his trial who recanted their original testimony. Despite the overwhelming doubt surrounding his guilt, Davis never received a new trial and was unjustly put to death by lethal injection. I don't like to contradict other judges, but Davis should have been granted a new trial so that he could prove his innocence. This was, without a doubt, a grave miscarriage of justice. We've long known our justice system is broken. Davis's execution shows us just how flawed the system has become. Too often, prosecutors and parole boards simply refuse to admit they are wrong or have doubts about the guilt of the accused. Our nation's governors are often unwilling to sacrifice their political careers in the name of doing the right thing. Troy Davis was failed at every step of the judicial process. America must revamp its legal system, beginning with the way we investigate and arrest suspects and continuing to the way we prosecute them and the way we handle appeals. We must not allow prosecutors to convict an individual based solely on eyewitness testimony when new evidence is introduced or witnesses recant their testimony. A new trial should automatically be granted when this occurs. Lastly, we need a nationwide ban on the death penalty. One innocent man put to death is one too many. If we can't be certain of the legitimacy of the convictions, the practice must be halted. It is criminal that this man was executed with so much doubt surrounding his case, and Georgia has blood on its hands.